2 of Mayple's Host the Pro, where we sit with super talents to talk about everything from marketing to business and so much more. We're honored to have Chris Walker, who is the CEO of Refine Labs. We're here to talk about B2B strategies, trends in B2B marketing, attribution analytics, whatever the talk is going to take us. Chris, welcome. We're very happy to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me join, and I'm looking forward to letting this conversation go wherever it takes us. So you get started, and I love having sort of the open format. So wherever it ends up, it'll end up. So looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Um, Things are happening. It's like the end of 2023. We're looking at 2024. People are predicting things. We're trying to see what trends are going to come up. So this is kind of like a phase where communicating about this and actually talking about what's happening and what's going to happen is, I think it's the best time in marketing. So let's talk about a little bit, just a brief who are you? What are you? Refine Lab. Give me the gist.
Sure, everyone. Hey, my name is Chris Walker. I'm the CEO of a company called Refine Labs, which I started in 2019 and rather quickly grew to an eight-figure business with tons of amazing employees, some of which have participated in my company and then gone on to do great things like be a CMO or a VP of marketing, which is something that I'm very proud of. Is a lot of people through my company are getting career acceleration and learnings and growth and professional development that they haven't been able to get before. That makes me happy. Basically, we set out to fundamentally change how the way that B2B companies think about going to market. And we have done that up to this point through building what we think is the best B2B digital agency, which combines demand gen expertise with creative and content built for native distribution and how the internet works today, combined with paid media with the strategy based not on a lead gen objective, but based on getting your target customer to consume the information and want to buy your product. And then consolidating and integrating those three things, where some companies would buy a creative agency over there and a media agency for $12K a month, and they would hire a demand gen consultant. You have three vendors that aren't running off a consistent strategy, and believe that companies over time need to be able to consolidate the vendors where media and creative and strategy need to be all together. So if you're going to use an agency, great. If not, then build it all in-house and have it operate against a consistent strategy. That's what we've been operating to, and find the companies that use all three of those things together, that actually allows us to be accountable to results, where if like one company's doing the media, other company's doing the creative, you don't get that benefit. And then I've been working on a personal project that I'm really passionate about over the past 6 months, as we continue to work on how do we actually solve this problem for how thinking about how to fundamentally change how B2B companies go to market. That I think there's a lot in the data that's needed to be able to identify what data should we measure, how should we structure and measure it, why are we looking at it that way, what are we looking for once we see it, how do we recognize it with high confidence, and then have a clear action about what we're going to do on it. So historically in my career, especially as I started talking on LinkedIn in 2019 and 2020 and 2021, a lot of the things that I talked about, while from a lot of my experience and backed by some of the qualitative things that I saw from companies and what I heard from customers, a lot of it was my opinion. And a lot of the things that I talked about, I spent a lot of time talking about either or. Why do email when you can do LinkedIn instead? Or why do why go to conferences when you should build trade show booths, why you can do this instead, in a very like binary yes or no way. And I've sort of evolved the way that I think about as a professional in terms of when you think about results is not binary. It's not, we did something, did it work or did it not? It's actually a spectrum of how well did it work? How much ROI did it perform? Where some things are very low and some things are very high, but it's not as binary as, is this thing working or is it not? And then in the data as well, being able to use a company's data to then be able to tell a story around what's happening, why it's happening, and what we should do about it, I think is something that's lacking across the go-to-market function. And so that's a personal project that I've been working from with a lot of companies, collecting benchmarks, analyzing data in a standardized way, building what we call a data network that has a lot of companies aggregated, anonymized data in it, which we can use for benchmarking or trend analysis or identifying certain things, which just helps our customers in a huge way. People that are a part of it get to benefit from that. You don't get the benefits of the benchmarks without being part of the benchmarks. So people get to benefit from those types of things, as well as our overall experience of having looked at a lot of companies, our number one job is to optimize the process around how we do it and how we get it more accurate and more precise, which is not what a internal RevOps team is thinking about on a day-to-day basis. And so that's been a passion project of mine. And how do we use data to be able to communicate a business story that helps executives see the reality of what's happening in the world, the reality of what's happening in the B2B sector, which is the old playbook of how we run go-to-market in B2B is not working anymore. Predictable revenue is a low ROI. Now that the economy and interest rates are slowed down, companies are seeing all the things that they didn't see 2 or 3 years ago, or that they didn't challenge at the same level that they are now 2 or 3 years ago. That this MQL machine is causing a lot of sales and marketing misalignment, that we might need to rethink how we think about attribution. There's a lot of things going through people's heads, especially as they think about, the performance of what happened in 2023, hoping for some US interest rate cuts, which I think might have been confirmed this morning, that gives a little bit of a softer landing and some, prospects of growth for a lot of companies next year, just simply because of how the market performs. That has nothing to do with their product or their tactics or anything. And so maybe that was a little bit long-winded, but that's a lot of what I'm working on and a little bit about me.
Not many companies and not many marketers are aware of the importance of data and how they can integrate that in their strategy. And I think that's one of the things that's going to happen. I believe that's one of the trends that's going to come up in 2024. So if we're talking about that, what new trends do you see in B2B marketing strategies? How do you tackle adapting those changes? Especially when you're working with B2B, so it's a bit different than working with just clients that are direct.
Yeah, let's talk through some of the quote unquote trends I see, and I'm going to try and be clear when I do them of whether this is happening now or if it's already happened. There are a lot of things that B2B companies should have been doing years ago where it's already happened. It's not like it's a trend. It's already happened, but you should still do it. And then there are other things that are actually actively happening, some that might, or maybe I'll go through, being overhyped or underhyped. And so some of the trends and I like looking at the macro level. I think that a lot of people get very tight into the micro of like, what bidding type should we use in Google? And, how do we, should we run spotlight ads on LinkedIn or should we use audience network? And those things, they matter. They definitely matter. But I like to look at macro things that deliver macro results. And those types of things are often not the lever. It's an incremental lever. I look for the macro levers. There is a big shift happening in SEO, but driven through a couple of core things. One, social networks, whether owned by Google or not, that want to become search engines. So think about YouTube, and that they put a lot of YouTube shorts at the top of the search results list for companies that have done no legacy traditional SEO, but rank number one over companies that have massive domain authority for high volume terms, because Google owns the video and thinks that video is a better way to communicate the information to the searcher than the SEO results. So a lot of companies that live off of website content blogs, both coming from how social networks are approaching it, also from how AI is impacting the quality of the content, the written content. And you see it coming from and how AI might become an interface inside of a Google or a Bing in the future. But there's a lot of shakeup going on inside of SEO, that where just putting your head in the sand and running the core playbook of try and get backlinks and do things. I think those are incremental things that'll keep getting you incremental outputs until eventually the macro shift happens and the whole thing breaks. And I think it's possible that we reach that breaking point for legacy SEO strategies sometime in 2024, 2025. Right now, for certain things, we spend no money on legacy, traditional SEO at my company. No investment, no time, basically no effort except for putting basic title tags on the stuff. However, we spend a lot of time taking my podcast and making it YouTube Shorts videos, and then spend some time thinking about what the title should be and how the description should be so that it's search optimized, so that when someone searches pipeline velocity, that my video shows up for pipeline velocity higher than the top blog for pipeline velocity. And we're seeing that happen in certain searches and things like that. And I expect over time it will continue to happen. So there's these dynamics in search overall. And then if you look at for certain things that I want, I won't even go to Google. I'll go to directly to TikTok and search for it. So people are starting to recognize when I'm trying, depending on the type of search that I'm making, what is the relevant search engine that I should go and search for. And so for you as a B2B company selling stuff, knowing what is the search engine that my customers go to and recognizing that often it isn't Google. Often it's a social network, going and asking their friend, going to a community of CMOs or executives and asking their PE firm or their community, and recognizing that that search that used to only happen in Google now happens in a ton of other places. I think is a big trend. Sort of to that vein in marketing again, there's an undeniable shift in how content on the internet is being consumed today. It's been progressing over the last 3 years as a transition from pictures, not only just about just video, but vertical short form video. Think TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. The only major platform that doesn't really abide by it yet is LinkedIn, which happens to be the B2B platform. But some people are debating like, hey, should we spend time on TikTok? And the real question is, should we be investing in time to figure out the new content medium that everyone's consuming and going to consume in the future because all the social networks are playing by it? And the answer for most people is yes. The answer for most people that have a content strategy should be basically the entire internet is moving to this content consumption model as a primary model. You can always go into a podcast or YouTube and listen to a long form later, but most of the consumption is actually happening in short form. It doesn't mean your video has to be 10 seconds either. Those platforms, most of them last 3 to 10. You can get 3 to 10 minutes. To be able to create the content for this medium, and then think about deploying that content in that medium on LinkedIn, I think creates a incredibly unique content strategy where most of the content on LinkedIn, people are not spending a lot of time thinking about the changes in how people want to consume. Most people on LinkedIn still write written content, no picture, no video. If you're lucky, you get a little carousel deck. And thinking through how sort of content evolves on the internet. And I think that over time, LinkedIn will get forced to follow suit to be a mobile first, video first platform at some point.
You do think that LinkedIn is gonna do? I mean, I always say that social media is kind of maturing with its original hyped people, like first users. So we had Facebook, then Instagram, and TikTok now, and everything that's gonna come after Gen Z. You know, still things are still happening, but LinkedIn is kind of the place that stays flat and businessy and kind of dignified. I'll say it like that. And people are wondering if it's going to be like another social network where you're just going to add and follow people that you want to follow, and leaving it not being so professional and more social. Do you think it's gonna happen like 2024?
I mean, on TikTok, I watched a video last night from like some lawyer banker guy that was the most boring video ever, telling me about how to do how a leverage buyout works. And it was a very professional video on TikTok, and I watched the whole thing. It doesn't need like the mindset that like, oh, LinkedIn is, we put our suit on and we go into LinkedIn, and then when we go to TikTok, it's like Wet and Wild, some type of spring break party. That it doesn't have to be that way. It's really just a perception. And there's plenty of professional content on TikTok, and there's plenty of content that I post on TikTok that I then move to LinkedIn. That's my best performing content that some people would say is, unprofessional. Where's your suit? And so there's a difference between what people think about what's happening versus what's actually happening. And the people that are in there experiencing it understand the nuances at a much greater level than the people that read a headline in Forbes or heard something from their buddy about how it actually works. The people that are in there are the people that know how it works. And so sort of zooming out, we've had some trends, right? We have SEO changing. We have internet content consumption moving from website, blogs, PDFs to, short form, vertical video and other formats. And that shift has been happening for a half decade. So it's not like this is something new. It's just getting more and more power. The wave is getting bigger and bigger over time. And if you don't move on at some point, the wave's going to roll over and roll you over. So there's that. I think that that the way that companies try to measure the effectiveness of their go-to-market programs and investments is entirely failing executives and leaders in making it like inability to use that data to make strong, confident, data-informed decisions about what to do next, which leads to tons of just like incremental, how do we get the cost per lead down by 10% next year? Let's just increase the budget on every, we got a 15% budget increase. So let's just increase everything by 15%. The budget gets spread out. They don't have like 1 to 2 workhorse channels where if you got $5 million next year, $500,000 a month, let's just say, like, where's that additional money going to go? And if you don't know that straight away as a CMO, I think you're not doing something right. I think you always have to have a pulse of, if I had more money, where is it going? And know that very clearly with data and conviction, data from your CRM and from customers. And so I think the way that companies look at this with their visible W-shaped model that gives like a third to the first touch and a third to the middle touch and a third to the last touch and misses everything important, like a podcast, social media touches, word of mouth, communities, social networks, content platforms, the YouTube video that shows up in Google search, the event that somebody spoke at where they talked about how they use your product and they love it, it's not your part of the event. There's a million different things that happen that don't get tracked by that little W-shaped model, that because B2B companies invest all the energy in that model, that they miss all the other things that are happening and have a very tough time making strategic decisions. Another thing about influence revenue is what I've found is that it's the output of it looks something like everything that we're doing that this software can track is working. It doesn't matter that when we actually analyze the data, we get 42 cents in revenue for every dollar we spend on marketing, which is bad. It's a 3-year marketing CAC payback, more or less, a little more generous than that. It's bad. But then when we get the influence revenue reports and we look at them, it looks like everything is working. Content syndication influenced $6 million in revenue. Google ads is influencing $5 million. LinkedIn ads touched every one of our accounts, influenced 100% of the revenue that we closed last year. What are we going to do? So what are we going to do? It looks like everything's working, even though our ROI is really bad. And what a bad ROI means is that you're doing a lot of stuff that isn't working. And so you have this conflicting view where everyone spends so much time trying to justify the impact of the programs and not look at the bigger picture and say, are we actually delivering like revenue at an appropriate ROI with the investment that we're making? And you need to be able to do both. But companies spend so much time at the program, campaign, tactical, micro level. I think we'll see a transition of thinking. I don't think it'll happen in 2024. I think that smart people are starting to make some of those changes, or let's call them early adopters. It's not like people that aren't doing it are dumb, just early adopters that are moving on some of those things more quickly. And so, yeah, that's a trend that I see. And it's not just about looking at data. Everybody that's listening to this podcast right now looks at their data and they try and get insights from it, and they try to do the best they can with what they got. And usually they have a ton of data and they don't really know what way to look at it. So they're just looking at stuff and they're trying to do the best that they can to make the decisions that they need to make. And so the realization here is it's not about collecting the data. It's about how do we get the insights from the data and then make confident decisions against it. And there's a layer there that doesn't seem to be being filled by RevOps right now. That CMOs oftentimes, they've just been so far along in their career as digital emerged that they don't really understand the technical marketing ops and RevOps and how, like, it's no fault to them. They're amazing, super strategic people. It's just like for someone that's like more like my age, like at the beginning of my career, I was like building HubSpot, right? And building a HubSpot instance, integrating with Salesforce, looking at the data. So I'm native to this type of thing where when they were starting their career, they weren't. And then by the time those things came out, they were at a level where they weren't really in those details. And so if RevOps isn't doing it and the CMO or CRO doesn't really have the skills or the experience to do it, then who's going to do it? So I think there's like an overall gap in how we use data to make strategic decisions.
What's the practice here? How do you close this gap? Well, it's not the first time that C-levels and up having to deal with something that there's a gap and someone can't explain or doesn't know how to explain to them what should be done next. How do you take that in your strategy?
I don't have a perfect answer for this. Sometimes, exactly, yeah. I just want people to sort of know it. Like I'm more speaking out loud than like, here's what we should do or here's what I think. I'm just kind of talking out loud that a lot of CMOs that I talk to, when they think about trying to make a strategic change, and this isn't just in CMOs, this is in go to market, when they think about strategic changes in sales or in their product development process or things like that, that a lot of more developed companies used an external firm to increase the probability of that success and accelerate their time to actually making that strategic shift. So that could be bringing in, we're going to start operating on Medic sales methodology. Okay, so let's go and hire them, and they're going to come in and do 4 trainings a year, and we're going to be at NSM, and they're going to have the online program. And we're going to make this big investment for our sales team to do something different, or maybe we're going to change from, I don't even really know the tactical things, but Scrum to Agile or whatever people are changing to in product development. They bring in an external firm to actually help them through that process. So I think in the marketing side, this could be something to do, or I'm not even sure it's marketing anymore. It might be a part of revenue operations, or what some people are starting to split rev ops with go-to-market strategy. I see them as 2 entirely different things. Rev ops, how do we run the current machine? How do we run the machine? Go-to-market strategy, what machine do we need to be building for the future? Very different skill sets, very different day-to-day work styles and work responsibilities that right now get jammed together into one function. And so we're seeing more companies start to think about that differently, where you have go-to-market strategy people and operations people, and their responsibilities are and functions are different. Where at the beginning of RevOps, it was just jammed into one function. I do think that there's like a massive opportunity for companies generally in that space, that like the space between operations, RevOps, and go-to-market strategy, where oftentimes it's underfunded, it's underinvested. It's not a quota carrying person or a direct responsibility. So sometimes, what's the ROI of our 2-person RevOps team to support our 1,000-person company or something like that? Like those conversations do get had. But it's almost like an enabler. So I think that I think there's a big somewhere in there. I don't have a 100% clarity on what, but like I just see that there's a lot of promise of what that function could be doing and should be doing that isn't actually being delivered today. So there's some gap that could be filled there through internal or external expertise.
Dealing with long sales cycles and various touch points in B2B transactions. How do you ensure a comprehensive understanding of the customer's behavior and engagement?
By tracking the things that you can track, and then making sure that you spend most of your time talking to the actual people and getting all the insights that you can't track, which typically are the most valuable.
So this is data all over again, just named differently. I mean, it's from a different angle.
It's from a different angle. What did we do before digital attribution and all these digital tracking tools and analytics and stuff like that? What did we do before that? We ran surveys. We did focus groups. We talked to customers. We went to trade shows and interviewed people. We would pay people $100 gift card just to talk to us and give us feedback on the product during a trade show event. And that was some of the things that we did as marketers. And then all of a sudden we have attribution software, and it's like, okay. And mind you, like, when I was doing marketing, like product marketing and demand were the same job. You were doing marketing. So you're growing up, you have to be understanding customers in order to run the programs, to decide what programs to run and how to run them and what to say in them and all that stuff. So you did both of them together. And then you sort of look in this, where now demand and product marketing get split to do, which in some cases I agree with. I think that it makes, but a lot of marketers haven't seen both sides of the thing. And then you have your whole demand gen team that never talks to a customer, relying on the information that they get from product marketing, where product marketing stuff is not really about what do we need to understand about demand. How do we drive revenue? They're trying to figure out what product to build and how to price it. They do a ton of great stuff, but we don't get enough direct customer insights to run our go-to-market. What should our sales process be like? what should our main CTA on our website be? Should it be book a demo? Should it be talk to sales? Should it be deliver a proof of concept, talk to an expert? Why? What does our customer want as the first step? Some CRM data can tell you a lot about that stuff just based on performance, but then to layer on. So it's really about collect the data that we can automatically, understand that there's value in it, but it's not everything. And then we need to go and actually talk to our customers to validate the things that we think we're seeing from attribution software and other things, and to uncover all the things that we're not seeing from those tools, which there are a lot. So it's really about layering both of those things together, customer data and automatically collected business data, and using those two things together to make strategic decisions.
Do you feel like you're experimenting a lot, like seeing what works with the companies you work with, or do you feel like you have like a go-to strategy? That's what you're doing. I mean, how much? Because the world is changing like at a super fast pace, and AI is coming all over, and you know, it's the talk of 2024 as it was for 2023. And still, for marketers, it's always about experimentation. You're always testing. You're always A/B testing or doing whatever you can to know what will work best. But I'm wondering if maybe it's not the best tactic. Maybe it's better to just have like a strategy that you know that's going to work. That's what you're going to do. What's your take on that?
Like in some ways I can get on board with like the always be testing mindset, right? Like I'm going to write the copy differently on LinkedIn. Maybe I use hashtags sometime and maybe I don't for a TikTok post. And what's the difference? Maybe I try and test the time. Maybe I try and edit the first second of the video. So I believe deeply in micro testing and micro optimization. But when it comes to an actual developed B2B company, typically what I find is that there's like 3 or 4 very obvious things that you should do next that involve tons of investment and tons of human capital that are delivering low ROI based on pure data. And if you ask your customers, you would get the exact same answer. And then, instead of just taking action on either cutting that huge low ROI expense or finding something in the data that's working a ton and figuring out how do we do a fuckload more of this and not focusing on the big things, we're out there A/B testing our button color. We're out there trying to decide whether we should have 5 fields on our form or 4. We're out there trying to figure out what the subject line of our automated bulk email should be in our nurture sequence. And we spend so much time doing these little micro things, which have value, but we need to be able to look up and say, wow, that one thing is driving tons of revenue at incredibly high sales velocity, and we can scale. Let's put together a plan of how we do that and make that the number one priority for 2024. And so there's like when you think about all the things, and it feels like B2B go-to-market machines are like very complex and there's so much going on and it's hard to tease out what's working and all that different stuff. If you have the data and the right structure to look at it, it actually becomes really simple. It actually becomes really, really simple to isolate what are the things that are working, what are the things that aren't, what are the things that we can't measure that we need to put measurement in place to make these types of decisions. How much of our revenue do we have no idea where it came from? How do we not have that happen in the future so we can make better decisions? That when you look at the data in a certain way, a lot of that stuff becomes clear, and then you can really isolate and say, fuck all this stuff over here. Forget it. Like, I know that we have 5 people working on it and we invest a lot of money, but there's no tangible ROI. We went and talked to a bunch of customers and asked if they've ever heard of it or whether they like it. We got the same answer from customers. We have confidence that we should shut it down. So then imagine, like, in your go-to-market machine that you basically, like, there's 5 things. Let's just pretend that let's make it more simple. Let's say there's 3 things that you're doing. The 3 things that you invest money, time, and resources in to try and drive new business growth. And you have 1 thing that doesn't cost a lot of money and gets you 20x ROI. And then you have 2 things that cost a ton of money and deliver like 50% ROI. You lose money every time you transact. And what B2B companies do is they try to scale the things that are at a half of 50% and try to get them to 55%. instead of saying, here's the thing that's getting 20x, let's cut off the things that are 0.5%, and let's go figure out how to get way more of the 20x ROI stuff. And it's because of the direct attribution and how they look at KPIs and how they box the tactical execution. The metrics and KPIs basically just box in the execution that you can do. That even if you're scoring your marketing team on pipeline, if you use an attribution model, you're forcing a lead gen model. Whether it's last touch or first touch or some like combination in the middle, like a U or a W, it doesn't matter. You're forcing lead generation activities in order to get that measurement point. And then all you're doing is if it's first touch, you're going to optimize marketers to fill your database. If it's last touch, you're going to optimize. You're going to tell your marketers to optimize to have your sales team talk to a bunch of people that don't buy. And so how we think about KPIs and how they translate. KPIs drive behavior. Attribution system boxes in the behavior that can happen. How as we as leaders can we think about creating the right environment with the right KPIs and the right way of thinking that enable a smart strategy and the right behaviors that are customer centric and business centric for tactical execution. Everyone just spends so much time in the tactical. I think we need to sort of elevate and identify what are the root causes of this problem, and how do we create an environment where all the go-to-market teams can be more successful.
I think there's a psychology side to it where you say, I want to try this and I have this idea, and you fall in love with the idea and the idea is not working, but you still say, wait, but I believe in this and I don't want to let it go. And I think it's kind of like touching that as well. I mean, it's a pain point for passionate marketers who want something to succeed, an idea that they thought will work really well and it doesn't. So it might, and you need to focus on what's working, just like in life. I mean, in life, if something's not working for you, you wouldn't put so much money to make it a bit better. You would do something different to make it 100% better. So yeah. What's like the main difference for you in your mind between B2B and everything else?
It's interesting to think whether if this is the right question or whether it should be framed a little bit differently. So yeah, like maybe it's not B2B versus B2C, but the dynamics of a buying group or buying center. And is it a single or one and two people, aka husband and wife or partners? Is it a small buying center or is it a large buying center? Might be a better way to look at it, right? Because there's a lot of PLG companies. Like you could even look at Riverside and consider that a B2C offer, not a B2B offer, even though they probably have a B2, like every B2C SaaS company tries to put together a B2B plan through scale. But it's almost, the difference is really the size of the buying center and the complexity, the theoretical complexity of the deal. And so if we look at it in that context, for instance, then the difference is how many people you need to convince, or to what level you need to convince your champion so that they do all the work for you to convince everybody else. Or how do you arm your champion with the ROI calculator and the content and all the things that they need, buyer enablement, for that buyer and your champion to go and then, even with you out not even knowing about it, share your content in Slack, talk about it in a meeting, bring it up to the CEO in a one-on-one, do that stuff to then influence that buying center to think the way that your company thinks. I think the difference is really that you have to convince a business, a set of people inside of a business, that this is that what you have is a top priority for their business for emotional, career growth, business growth, efficiency. There's many variety of value props that is a priority to put in their business for X, Y, and Z reason that is going to require time to implement, switching costs, a lot of other things that B2C companies sometimes like do a good job. Like imagine you're trying to go and get a new car, like they'll always give you money for your car to get you in a new one, switching costs. B2B companies often don't think about that their software might cost $80K for the year, but the switching cost and human capital and time invested in opportunity costs could be millions of dollars. So they think it's a no-brainer. You should buy my SaaS product. But their CFO back there says this isn't a no-brainer. There's a bunch of other costs underneath it that are outside of your product that were required for us to switch. So just, I think thinking about it as the buying center and the complexity of the sale is it tends to be more complex with B2B. But there's some, like buying a plane, you could argue the buying center is small, but the deal is probably pretty complex. So I think that it could play on either side. Let's see what other trends we could pull out here, because I was talking on that for a minute. There was probably like three that I went into a lot of details. So lots of companies involved in this analysis. I think we're at like 26 or 27 in total. Data all analyzed in the same way. Most of them 50 to 250 million in revenue. That digital lead generation does not produce any meaningful effective ROI. So it's not like, and I'm trying to be more conscious that I'm not saying that it's not working. It's not a binary not working. It's how well is it working on a spectrum. If you have the spectrum from zero return on your investment to like $10 in revenue for every dollar you spend, return on investment, 10x ROI, that most of these programs are in the pennies on the dollar ROI. Content syndication, a lot of performance marketing through Google, although it's tough to tease out with branded and high intent terms. A lot of companies just don't have the granular data. Like, you theoretically should be able to report, if you're spending a lot of money on Google, you should theoretically be able to report on that at any period of time. But most companies, despite the big investment, don't have the granular tracking to actually get to that level. LinkedIn lead generation or other forms of paid social advertising with lead gen forms, mostly for gated content, but you could also use it for some other type of offer, are delivering oftentimes pennies on the dollar in terms of ROI. So we're taught, like, when I was doing this in 2020, we would do the exact same analysis and see 48, 60-month CAC payback. It's not like it's so much worse now than it used to be. It's always been bad. But companies just haven't scrutinized, they haven't looked at the data in this way, and they haven't been forced to scrutinize these things. So in 2021, they ran the same thing. They just weren't challenged about it. The results were exactly the same. They were feeding a bunch of garbage to their sales team. They just didn't care. And now they run the exact same stuff with the exact same volume. They do the exact same thing. It gets almost the exact same result in terms of ROI, but now it's a huge deal, which I think is a good thing for the profession. But overall, like this type of stuff to sell, even like a lot of transactional SaaS, 4K ACV, $1,000 a month, monthly contracts, like transactional SaaS. It's just hard to make the math work, because a lot of buyers don't need to fill out your lead form for content and then get you to email and cold call sequence them, and all of a sudden they're going to buy your product regardless of what. We've seen these work in very micro instances where your offer is so good that people would be dumb to say no, which is hard to pull off in a lot of companies. So for one company, for instance, it was, we'll send you this machine, and every person you put on the machine, you'll make an extra $4,000 or something like that. And it was like a no-brainer. Okay, send me the machine for free. Every time I have an opportunity to use it, I'll make $4,000. People would do that, right? Most SaaS companies don't have a compelling offer like that, or like a no-risk, high revenue generating offer. It's just very rare. You got that, run your lead gen machine on paid social. But for the other 98% of us, like, it's not a viable option. And trying to trick someone with gated content so you can cold call them or stuff, just the data is purely accurate. They didn't ask to talk to your sales team. The sales velocity, win rates, stuff like that reflects that reality perfectly. And when looked at, it just doesn't. We spend $50 to get a lead, or let's be $50 is generous. Most companies operating executive CPL on LinkedIn, $150 to $350 CPL. Some I've seen is in the thousands. So we'd spend that much money to get the lead, and then we give it to an SDR who's going to chase it around for 30 days. And some of them get into a meeting and we win no revenue. And then we do that 1,000 times over, and maybe we still don't get a customer. And at some point we have to think about, should we even be doing this? Like, instead of trying to get the cost per lead from $200 to $150, the math still doesn't work. We win 1 out of 1,000 deals. The cost per lead doesn't matter. It's the efficiency and all the hidden costs inside of it that's the problem. And so being able to zoom out and say, this data says that we shouldn't run a digital lead gen program. So why not in 2024, we architect a strategy? We're seeing very low ROI right now. Imagine, like, let's say you're getting 7 cents in return on like your $1 million in LinkedIn investment. Moving that $1 million either to a different strategy on LinkedIn that doesn't involve the lead gen thing, or like reallocating it to an entirely different channel to begin with is almost guaranteed to have a better ROI than 7 cents on the dollar. It's like almost guaranteed to, because of how bad the baseline is. And so people are scared to like move away, like, oh, we've been doing LinkedIn ads for so long this way. Like, what if we shut it off and things go wrong? It's like, one, the data shows that this is almost entirely worthless. And anything else that we did would most likely produce a better ROI. And so I think there's some people are becoming more aware of this, which is big. I ran performance marketing in 2018 to sell like transactional healthcare like technology, and the performance marketing there, 500 leads, 0 closed customers. I did it one time. The entire company agreed that it was a waste of time and money, and we stopped doing it. But other companies have been doing this for literally years with the data sitting in the CRM of how bad it is. So I think the companies will like that. There's a pattern happening here. Maybe there's a couple of people that have been able to growth hack their way to it working. You think that you'll be able to follow in their footsteps, but it's most likely not. They likely have something different that you are unable to replicate easily that makes that channel work that way. So why don't we do it in a different way? So I think that's number 4 trend.
I want to talk about AI because you're talking about data, and I think it takes courage to kind of do what you just talked about. To say, well, I've spent so much time and effort and money on my LinkedIn ads or whatever for so long. Maybe it's just about to become what I want it to become. You know, that moment when you say, wait, but that's the second that I'm gonna turn it off and now it's gonna spike. So do you think like AI is gonna be a game changer in terms of predicting maybe what's gonna happen?
It's undeniable that the long-term impact of AI will be vast in ways that we do not understand. When it comes to 2024, the next 12 or 13 months, specifically for B2B marketers and sales professionals, I think the idea of AI is incredibly overhyped. And that's probably not an opinion that people hear often, and I'm pumped to share it. It's incredibly overhyped. There's one use case that seems very clear, which is workflow automation. How do we use AI to do the low value activities that we would normally have, like a $50,000 a year employee do to edit videos or do a graphic design or stuff like that? There are, and in order for AI to really work, humans need to be able to do it really well first. And so like we spend a lot of time talking about analyzing go-to-market data, right? Humans struggle to do this. Like even I feel like I'm one of the most sophisticated in the way I look at it, and I don't have it all figured out. So what we're going to put a machine that's trained on the things that we know, and that we don't know how to do it, so the machine's going to know how to do it. I just don't think it's that sophisticated. I don't think it's going to happen that fast. So I think that in terms of data analytics, like I think that that there's massive promise, and I'm going to pursue that in a lot of the ventures that I have moving forward. And how do we use AI to look at a data model and make incredible decisions and find patterns and trends, and that's amazing. But I don't think it's happening in 2024. I think that niche LLMs do have a promise of making an impact in 2024, but that's effectively just figuring out how to deliver information. It's like being a better search engine, and having better content in the engine that's more specific. So it's not like it might help people get to the answers that they need faster, but I wouldn't consider it like a game changer. And then the question is, who's making the stuff? Is it some like, influencer that makes $100K a year with like podcast sponsorships, and they're making the LLM? But the quality of their LLM is going to be very different than a company that's been doing go-to-market research for 15 years, like a Serious Decisions or some company like that. And being able to distinguish who has the information that I need, and then which LLM should I use for what stuff, I think will become actually like a challenge for marketers. I haven't seen anything practical yet, and people try and show me it. And I know that SaaS companies are building it all into their products, and like I demoed some of they like try to make it so obvious. Like they'll put like a little pop-up next to you and be like, try this AI feature. And it's like the most useless little thing that you could do with AI. And it's just like, they just want to do it so they can put on their website that it uses AI. So they make like a micro feature that doesn't add a lot of value. I just haven't seen anything happening in the space with this stuff where you see it and you're like that it's as good as that's as crazy as the internet. Like the last time I felt that was like the third prompt I put into ChatGPT. But haven't seen like a very deep, practical niche application inside of marketing besides content, workflow automation, post-production. So we'll see what happens. I'd love to bring this clip back in 12 months and for someone to be like, you were so wrong, and look at how it played out, and AI made such a huge impact. I think that people struggle with time. I think that people think that things happen a lot faster than they do, and they almost get ahead of their skis where they're so focused on how to use AI right now, where AI is far away. Well, right now they could be making a podcast and making vertical video on social and crushing LinkedIn, organic content, and doing all the stuff that works now instead of spending all their time in the future for things that might happen in the future. I think that as B2B marketers, we need to be focused on now. And the clear reality now is that the way that customers get information has changed. It is entirely on the internet. A lot happening through dark social, pre them entering your Salesforce and pre them showing intent that you're going to pick up with 6 Sense. And there's tons of behaviors and actions and learnings and impact and things like that that are happening in these places that are blindly obvious to people that spend the time to do a little bit of research to understand it. And why aren't we putting all our energy there in the things that are guaranteed? Like, you have to be good at it. It's not guaranteed to work today, but the probability of you making an impact on your business this year in marketing with LinkedIn content versus AI, LinkedIn content wins every time. It's not even close. Like, maybe there's some hacker out there that figures out how to hack SEO content with AI and build 100 hyperlocal blogs and steal a bunch of traffic. And 1 out of a trillion people pull that off where AI makes a bigger impact for them in 2024. I can see it in product. I can see it as a long-term play for product. But when you come to actually practically operating a go-to-market machine, I haven't seen anything yet that I feel is that has appropriate level of hype for the short time period that people are looking for it in.
Yeah, great insight. I love the focus on the now and not on the what will be. All right, Chris, that's all the time we have. I had a pleasure talking to you. It was really fun, interesting. I learned a lot.
Happy to hear that. Yeah, I had a great time too.